I was 35 on my fourth deployment and somehow still believed I was invincible. Afghanistan had changed, sure. The terrain stayed the same, but the politics shifted every week. I didn't care about that. I cared about my guys, the mission, and making it home in one piece. And most of all, I cared about her. Megan was everything the Corps wasn't. Soft, warm, forgiving. We met in San Diego at a mutual friend's wedding. She wasn't flashy. She didn't chase attention. She stood off to the side in a blue dress with her arms crossed, like she hated everyone in the room. I liked that immediately. I walked over, offered her a drink, and she said, "Only if you promise not to talk about guns or CrossFit." Fair enough. We'd been married almost 9 years by the time of that last deployment. We weren't kids anymore. No illusions. We'd already been through long stretches apart, phone calls that dropped mid-conversation, missed anniversaries, close calls I didn't tell her about until months later, but she stuck by me. Every time I came back, she was there, waiting at the gate with a smile and trembling hands. That smile could have stopped a war. Our marriage wasn't perfect. We fought sometimes about how I never unpacked my bags, about how I wouldn't open up, about the way I'd shut down after each return. But she was patient, tougher than most men I served with. She knew how to read me. And when I finally cracked, when the weight got too heavy, she didn't flinch. She listened, sat next to me in silence when that was all I could offer, brought me back to life more than once. Before I deployed that last time, we had a quiet night together. No drama, just wine, her in my t-shirt, and music playing low in the background. She lay on my chest and traced the scars on my side with her finger. She said, "Promise me this is the last one." "I'll try. One more, then I'm done." She nodded, like she'd heard it before, but wanted to believe it anyway. That's love, I guess. My best friend from the Corps, Kyle, was around a lot back then. He'd served with me in Okinawa and 2 tours in Iraq. We were tight, like brothers. After I married Megan, he became part of her world too. Helped fix stuff around the house when I was gone, showed up at barbecues, even dog sat for us. I trusted him with everything. I told him once, "If I ever go down, you look after her." He slapped my shoulder and said, "Come on, man, you'll outlive us all." It never crossed my mind that those words would mean anything. When the orders came through, 6 months in Helmand, I wasn't surprised. Megan didn't cry. She just stood there with her hands in her back pockets and said, "Okay, I'll keep the house warm." She kissed me like it might be the last time. I didn't let myself think that. The night before I flew out, Kyle came by with beer and bad jokes. We sat on the porch while Megan made us grilled cheese sandwiches like we were still in our 20s. The 3 of us laughed about the past, took one blurry photo together, and called it a night. That was the last normal night I remember. I remember the blast like I remember a bad dream. Soundless, bright, slow. It hit our convoy outside Sanjan. 3rd vehicle, roadside IED, buried deep in the gravel. My ears rang before I even registered the pain. The heat tore through the steel like paper. I don't remember the screaming, just the dust in my mouth and the taste of metal. I woke up 2 days later in Bagram, then again in Ramstein, then finally stateside in Bethesda. The diagnosis, multiple fractures in my left leg, shrapnel embedded deep near my hip. Surgery, plates, months of rehab. They said I was lucky. I didn't feel lucky. Megan flew in 3 days after they stabilized me. I was half conscious, drifting in and out, but I remember her voice, calm, even, trying to sound strong. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're safe. I've got you." She kissed my forehead and smiled, like she believed it. Maybe she did. The first few weeks she was by my side, brought me clean clothes, helped me sit up, fed me when I couldn't hold a spoon. She made the nurses laugh, brought good coffee instead of the hospital crap, decorated my little corner of the ward with photos and jokes. Everyone loved her. She kept telling me, "You're going to be fine. You're still you." I needed to believe her, so I did. But as the weeks turned into months, the energy started to fade. She came every day but stayed less. She stopped asking the doctors questions. Her phone buzzed more often, and sometimes she stepped out to take calls. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't want to be that guy. She was tired. I was a mess. It made sense. There were days when I caught her staring off, not at me, just past me, like she was already somewhere else. Sometimes I'd crack a joke, and she'd smile, too quickly, polite, practiced. Once, I caught her wiping her eyes before walking in, and when I asked if she was okay, she said, "Just work, stress, nothing about you." I believed her, because I had to. Kyle visited twice. He brought beer and sarcasm even though I couldn't drink. He kept things light, made fun of the food, gave Megan a hug that lasted just a second too long. I didn't say anything. It was Kyle, my brother. She needed people too. Rehab was brutal. 3 hours a day of sweat, frustration, pain that crawled down my spine. Megan started skipping those sessions, said it was hard to watch. I understood, or tried to. The calls at night got shorter. Her tone changed. When I told her I had a nightmare about the blast, she just said, "Don't think about it too much, just try to sleep." No softness, no follow-up, just cold advice. I thought maybe I was just too broken for her to handle anymore. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Pale, thinner, scarred, walking with a limp. I wouldn't have stayed either, maybe. But I still held on to the memory of her hands on my face, the way she said, "I've got you." I told myself the distance was just exhaustion. Then one night I called her, and it rang 5 times before going to voicemail. She didn't call back. Not that night, not the next morning. When I finally reached her, she said, "Sorry, I was out with a friend. Just needed some air." Something cracked in my chest right then. A small one. Quiet. But I felt it. Coming home didn't feel like a return. It felt like arriving too late to a life that had moved on without me. Megan picked me up from the airport in Kyle's truck. She said her car was acting up again. I nodded and said nothing, but the seat smelled like his cologne, and the stereo had his playlists saved. She helped load my bag, told me I looked good even though I was limping, and asked if I wanted to grab coffee before going home. I said no. I just wanted to be home. The house looked the same from the outside. Same mailbox, same dead patch in the front lawn. But as soon as I stepped inside, I felt it. The air had changed. Warmer, cleaner, too organized. Like a staged version of our home, like someone had curated it. My chair in the living room had been moved. My boots were no longer by the door. A new coffee table. Different scent in the air. Not Megan's perfume, not lavender. Something sharper, masculine. I tried to ignore it. I told myself things had changed because she was trying to cope while I was away. People redecorate when they're anxious. They rearrange. It doesn't mean anything. We sat in silence that first night. She asked me how my leg felt. I said, "Still mine." She laughed softly and went back to scrolling through her phone. I watched her from across the room and realized I didn't know how to talk to her anymore. Not really. The next morning, I woke up alone. She'd already left for work. She didn't leave a note, didn't kiss me goodbye. I made my way to the kitchen with my cane and noticed a second coffee mug in the sink. It wasn't mine. Black ceramic with a chip on the handle. I'd never seen it before.
Kyle drank from one just like it back when we were stationed together. I opened the cabinet. 2 of them now. Identical. That afternoon, I sat on the porch, in the same spot where Kyle and I used to drink beer and talk about life after the Corps. I looked at the driveway and realized it had fresh oil stains. Kyle drove a leaking Ram, always left spots. Megan's car hadn't been home in days. I texted her, "You coming home after work?" She replied, "Late shift tonight, don't wait up." I didn't reply. I just stared at the message until the screen dimmed. That night I couldn't sleep. My leg throbbed and my brain kept playing a loop of every missed call, every too long hug, every time she said, "I'm tired." The next day I checked the guest bathroom, the one we never used. Inside were 2 toothbrushes. One was hers. The other was dark green, travel-sized, military issue, the kind they give out on base. Kyle always carried those in his go bag. I opened the cabinet. 2 of them now. Identical. I didn't make a scene. I didn't flip tables or scream into pillows. I just stood there, holding that damn toothbrush in my hand, and felt something inside me go cold. Not rage, not heartbreak, just confirmation. The kind that doesn't knock you down. It just freezes you in place. That evening I asked her, "Is Kyle still around?" She paused for a second too long. "Yeah. He's been helping out a lot. With the house and things." I nodded and said, "He's sleeping here too." She flinched. Barely. But enough. "Matt, don't do this. You've just come home. We need time." I said nothing. Just stared at her. She looked away first.
I could have waited, could have played dumb, could have let it rot quietly inside me like so many other things I've swallowed over the years. But I'd spent too many months lying still in hospital beds, trapped inside my own body, not saying what needed to be said. I wasn't doing that anymore. So I texted Kyle, "Need to talk, today." He replied in minutes, "You good? Come over." An hour later, he pulled up in that same leaking Ram I knew too well. He walked up the steps like nothing was wrong, carrying a 6-pack like this was just another Tuesday. I opened the door before he knocked. We didn't shake hands. He looked at me with that half-cocked smile he always wore. "Damn, man, you're looking strong." "I'm walking. That's enough," I said, stepping aside. We sat in the backyard, like we used to. Except now I could hear every breath between us, every pause. He opened a beer, handed me one. I didn't touch it. I didn't dance around it. "How long?" He blinked. A long blink. The kind you do when the air shifts and there's no going back. "Matt, how long, Kyle?" His lips tightened. He stared at the ground. 5 months. It hit me slow. Not like the blast, not sudden, just a quiet confirmation of everything I already knew. "You were with her while I was still in the hospital." "We didn't plan it." "Bullshit!" "She was breaking, man. I saw her falling apart. You weren't here. I tried to help." "You helped yourself to my wife." Silence. "She cried every night for weeks. She was alone, scared. You have no idea how hard it was to watch her like that." "You think I wasn't scared? You think I didn't cry? I just did it while bleeding through morphine in a military ward." He didn't answer, just looked away. I could tell he hated himself, but not enough to stop. "You were my brother," I said. I trusted you more than I trusted myself. I didn't mean for this to happen, but you let it." He started to say something else. I held up a hand. "Don't explain. Don't justify. Don't talk about love or timing or fate. You made your choice. So did she." He swallowed hard. "I don't want to lose you. You lost me the moment you touched her." We sat in silence again. He didn't apologize. I think he knew it wouldn't matter. As he got up to leave, he hesitated at the door. "You gonna be okay?" I looked him in the eye for the last time. "I survived a war, Kyle. This is just cleanup." And I closed the door. The days after she left were quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful at first. It felt like walking through a house where someone had just died. No furniture missing, no broken windows, but everything felt colder, still, heavy. You think you're ready for that silence, but you're not. You think you'll feel free, maybe even relieved, but what you actually feel is absence. Thick, slow, echoing absence. I didn't chase her. I didn't text, didn't call. I didn't even look at her social media. What would I have found? Smiles I wouldn't recognize, photos I didn't take, truths I already knew. I had no interest in watching my own replacement live the life I'd built. I let it all go, not out of strength, but because I didn't have the energy to care anymore. The first week alone, I stuck to a routine, not because I wanted structure, but because it helped me breathe. I woke up early, made my bed, cooked breakfast I barely touched, took slow walks with my cane down to the end of the street and back. Each step reminded me I was still healing. Each moment reminded me I had no one waiting inside when I returned. I cleaned the garage, not because it needed it, but because the silence in there was different, honest. I found old boxes full of deployment gear, photos from Okinawa, even a letter Megan had written me after our first anniversary. I read it once, didn't cry, just placed it in a drawer I didn't open again. The wedding album? I burned that. Not in some dramatic fire pit under the moon, just in the fireplace, one evening, alone. Page by page. No music, no ceremony, just ash. She took the rings with her. I took the silence. Kyle never reached out again. Maybe guilt kept him away, or maybe he didn't feel any. Doesn't matter. I could have called him, could have demanded closure, yelled, swung a fist, let out the rage that coiled in my chest late at night like a snake waiting to strike. But I didn't, because I finally understood something. Closure isn't something people give you. It's what you choose when no one says sorry. I stayed in the house. I wasn't going to give that up, too. I'd bled for that mortgage, carried it across continents in my mind, whispered about it to Megan over grainy sat phone calls. I'd imagined coming home to that house 100 times while lying under a foreign sky with sand in my mouth. She left, not me. I filled the space slowly. Got a mutt from a local shelter. Scruffy, jittery, full of nervous energy, just like me. I named him Whiskey. He follows me from room to room, never complains, never lies. We sit on the porch most evenings, just breathing. He doesn't need stories, just presence. I started writing, too. Nothing fancy, just long pages in a yellow notebook I keep beside the bed. Some nights I write about the war, some nights about her, some nights about nothing, just words, feelings, images I don't know how to say aloud. It helps. Not like therapy, like bleeding onto paper without anyone watching. People always think pain is loud,
Explosions, shouting, fists through walls. But the real pain is quiet. It sits in your chest when no one texts back. It hums in the space between questions no one asks. It's when you realize your phone hasn't buzzed in 3 days and no one notices. Some neighbors asked where Megan went. I just said, she moved on. They nodded, like that explained everything. Maybe it did. I don't hate her. I did for a minute. And then I remembered how heavy hate is, how much it costs to carry it every day. And I've carried enough weight already. Let her go. Let Kyle go. Let it all rot behind me. Do I miss her? Sometimes I miss the version of her that loved me. The one who stayed up waiting. The one who mailed me care packages with letters sprayed in her perfume. But I don't miss the one who lied to my face and slept beside me with someone else's name on her mind. I miss the man I was before the war, before the cane, before betrayal taught me how to survive on silence. But I don't want to be him again either. He believed too easily. He trusted without proof. He bled for people who had already walked away. Now I move slower, speak less, but see more. I'm not whole, but I'm not broken either. Just different. I didn't get closure. I didn't get apologies or justice. I got a quiet house, a dog that doesn't leave, a limp that reminds me I'm still here, and the strength to say, they didn't kill me. They just made room for the man I became. And on most days, that's enough.